With the opening of the Project Pride, we invite you to travel together with us through cities and countries of the world to meet Kazakhstan people there, learn more about their life. We will go on a visit, we will plunge into their work, we will walk to their favorite corners of the cities they live in. But the main thing is that we set out on a journey to be inspired by their success. After all, the heroes of our program are bright and interesting people, and every story, every acquaintance is a swirl of impressions. The inexpressible appeal of the South, the epic charm of the Caucasus, legendary hospitality of the people. What else is needed to love this country? It's impossible not to love Georgia. Writers and poets, artists, sculptors, and musicians at one time found peace and tranquility here, found the motivation for life, love, and creation. It does not matter for whatever reason they came here, but Georgia did not reject anyone, did not deprive them of good, and did not disappoint. It only could not become the native land for these pilgrims who, as in the well-known poem of Mikhail Lermontov, for well-known reasons only to them, rushed to the fertile lands of Georgia. But the motherland is only one, and the heroes of our program, 3 Kazakhstanis, agree with this, who in each their own time found themselves here, studied their life, became friends, and fell in love with this beautiful place. Wherever we travel, we certainly meet our people. And Georgia, in this sense, is not an exception. Today, I will introduce you to the elders of the local Kazakh community, and perhaps we will learn a lot about not only our people, but ourselves too. Our compatriots tell about life and business in Georgia: Vitaly Pasepov, Kairat Kinjigarin, and Sergei Ivanov. From the point of view of business, it was very easy to work. You pay taxes on time and sleep peacefully. Sergei Ivanov, he was born and raised in Almaty. He has been living in Georgia for more than 13 years. In fact, he's one of the 2 oldest Kazakh settlers in Tbilisi, who settled here even before the embassy of the Republic of Kazakhstan in Georgia was established. The owner of the company for the technical equipment and maintenance of the hotel industry. He is married to a Georgian woman. But in fact, from the point of view of tourists, a lot has been done in Tbilisi. Sergei turned out to be a welcoming and talkative person, and walking with him through Tbilisi became a real excursion. It seems that the hiking around the beloved city of our new acquaintance is a common thing. He knows a lot about the landmarks of the Georgian capital and about the hidden streets and courtyards in which, under other circumstances, we could have wandered only by accident. There was a street here before, now it turned into a pedestrian road. It was reconstructed. It became very beautiful and very good. This is a monument to Griboyedov. This is the Ministry of Justice. It's almost like our Center for Citizen Services in Kazakhstan. It works according to the same principle. You can do everything in one place. This conversation's about the fact that such buildings were made specifically from glass, as if a metaphor for their transparency. This applies to the police. That is, if you look all police stations, the buildings are made of glass, even the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The new government proclaimed, everything is transparent. We do not need separate offices in which people sit and count their money under the table. However, there were also many moments that could be considered amusing if they didn't concern the conduct of affairs. For example, Sergei described how business partners treated the conclusion of contracts. After discussing in the conversation all the pros and cons of further cooperation, and having come to an agreement that the partnership should soon start, the parties in theory should come up to the time of signing the treaty. It is a very crucial moment. And then a strange thing happened. Georgian partner couldn't understand why just trust is not enough for joint business. After all, a paper contract for many Georgians is just an extra formality. Needless to say, it becomes especially clear on the Georgian land that anecdotes are born not by someone's order, they come from life. And life and conditions for working with the years have changed, both in our country and in Georgia. You go to the site, choose the number you want, the combination of numbers you like. The system gives you the amount of money you have to pay. You book it, pay some money. Then, when you come to register your car, this number is given to you. For me, it was a shock. The famous director Alfred Hitchcock used to say, "I'm not against the police, I'm just afraid of it." Tourists are literally told stories about the Georgian police, most of which turn out to be true. Here too, there are situations worthy of anecdotes and screenplays. I myself witnessed when on the road someone's wheel broke down. The owner of the car turned the emergency signal, the police drove up and stopped. They asked if they need any help. The man did not have a spare. They took him to his car, brought the evacuator. That is, it was something unreal. And there were even situations when a man came out of the restaurant, called the police, and he was taken home. I heard such things. And the police actually said thank you to him for not driving drunk. When you live in a foreign land, it is impossible probably to do without a constant comparison when you consider everything from the point of view of here and there. In communication with Sergei, such a construction analysis also slips constantly. It should be noted that there is a lot in the culture of our peoples. These are similar words of Turkic origin and attitude towards the guest, and rejoice before the elders, respect for traditions. Perhaps among Georgian traditional customs there is a cherished attitude towards religion. People revere faith here. They're very religious here. But when a person drives a car and releases the will to cross himself because he saw the church, it becomes a bit scary. Have you been living here for many years? 13 years already. And that still, you separate yourself from them. You didn't merge with them. Probably I will never will. No, well, we have an international country in Kazakhstan, and Georgia is a mononational country. There is such an element that everything made here is the best. And you will not change their minds. But nevertheless, I love this country. It's very similar to, well, I'm from Almaty myself, and the mountains resemble Almaty. People are very similar in their hospitality. The search for parallels and endless comparison with their native land is peculiar to every traveler in every country, but that's what will unmistakably give out an Almaty resident in any city in the world. He will always find the upper and lower parts, especially since it's not difficult to do in Tbilisi. Here is a very good view of the Metehi Church from here. I like it very much, especially in the evening when lighting is on. I'm going crazy here just for the sight. Here what I like, if the old house is torn down, then the new one is built in the same place, in the same style. Sergei admits that probably the architect died inside of him, fortunately or to the loss for the architectural appearance of Georgia, but we have to give our compatriot a credit for that he already knows the history of the city and the country quite well. He points out with a sharp eye, for example, that in construction, stone, brick, wood, natural materials are used here, which give the buildings a unique identity and to the soul, peace. Georgians love themselves. They love everything that is made here. They love comfort. Is it possible to reproach them for this? The times of ideological asceticism, thank God, have long been in the past. But in the past, Georgia tried to brighten up somehow, to equip its everyday life with comfort. There is no linoleum in the houses. Here, even old houses built in Soviet times have parquet. Everyone tries to have high ceilings, large areas, build something, but at the same time, What is beyond the threshold of the house is not my concern. Here, one Georgian photographer had a project called Tbilisi Doors. He simply walked and photographed the doors to the porch. Some chic pictures are found in his portfolio. Very stylish. Here's this fountain, it's very interesting. Are they in love? Yes, they are. Houses built in 1904. That is, they mainly built up that part of the city. These are the houses of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. What makes Georgia, despite its obvious identity, a modern country is a gradual departure from some very archaic customs. Household habits and manners inherent in the broad masses, gradually taking root, are passed on to succeeding generations. And so they probably got accustomed gradually and became traditions. Georgia is a country where traditions are strong, they're honored, but the changing world is changing the people of Georgia, which is not surprising. Young people are more Europeanized. Some traditions are lost. If we take the classical traditional Georgian family, it is definitely patriarchy. The girls are brought up from a very young age with the notion that the husband is number one in the family. And I was told an interesting story. A husband is lying on the couch, a coffee table is in front of him. A pack of cigarettes is on the table, a wife is in the kitchen, and he calls her from the kitchen to give him cigarettes. This won't surprise the Kazakhs. That's why I like it here. Certain traditions are of course undergoing changes over time. As the society evolves, so does the foundations. Many of the same tendencies are formed under the influence of today's requirements. For example, not so long ago in Georgia, they basically refused to study the Russian language. Again, this happened just like in many former sister republics, but now the emotions are undermining, common sense prevailed, and people realized that the language of neighbors is very useful and profitable to know. Well, at least it will not hurt anyone. Georgia is a country that is attractive for tourists and businessmen and is not only sensible, but also necessary to conduct a political dialogue with other countries, including its nearest neighbors. When Sergei Ivanov arrived in Tbilisi, there were only 2 Russian-speaking Kazakhs, Nouri Saydarov, a temporary chargé d'affaires of Kazakhstan in Georgia, and himself. There was not even a Kazakh embassy yet, and a diplomatic mission of several people was stationed in a private house. Then, representatives of small, medium-sized, and large businesses were drawn to Georgia, while the Embassy of the Republic of Kazakhstan in Georgia was opened later. Now, together with the embassy, Kazakhstan businessmen celebrate the holidays of their native country, Independence Day, Nowruz, Constitution Day, and at leisure, they play football together and go fishing. Do you mean that Kazakhstanis remain Kazakhstanis everywhere? Yes, and all envy us, that we're so amicable, because we celebrate all the holidays together and we go fishing to the nature. There are many businessmen who have decided to start a new business in a foreign country, and Kazakhstanis in this sense have always been bold and easy to move. But business is business, but connections with roots and call of ancestors, strong things, and it was proved once again. Hello, at last we meet. Another countryman is Kairat Kinjigarin. He, though, as a joke, but very deservedly, is called the main Kazakh of Tbilisi. But the key word here is still Kazakh. He is a man whose eyes glow with special warmth when he remembers his homeland, and a sentimental horse creeps into his voice. Kairat Kinjigarin was born in the north of Kazakhstan in the village of Zerinda. He graduated from high school, then the Machine Building Technical School and the Economics Faculty of the Correspondence Department of Kasymov-Kokshetau University. In the late 1980s, he served in the ranks of the armed forces. In 1992, he met his future wife. Soon they got married. In Kazakhstan, he worked in the banking sector. Here, his activity is connected with construction. In his cozy home, where we immediately recognize the spirit of the Kazakh homeland, Kairat warmly meets our film crew and shares the most precious memories of his life in Kazakhstan and Georgia, with what began a series of moves in the life of the descendant of the nomadic people. The first fateful relocation occurred in 1997, when Kairat was sent to work in Zhezkazgan. In this city, our hero lived with his family for 12 years. The city remained in my soul as a very warm and very good city. My father then said that it's good that we went there. He said that we would feel the history, the culture of the Kazakhs, more there than sitting at home. His words turned out to be prophetic. We seemed to get involved in culture. We learned what Ulitau is. Before, we probably didn't know about it. We went all the way down to the Ulitau and watched the places of our great Hans and spent the night over there. We have seen all the mazars and everything that it was possible to see on this land, we saw. Next changes and next move, but already in another country. Yes, Georgia was like a close neighbor, long known for its hospitality, but still, it was a different mentality, lifestyle, culture, and customs. The guest is the messenger of God, reads the Georgian proverb. In past times, the peoples of Georgia even had special guest rooms or separate guest houses, the doors of which were constantly open, and the guest had the opportunity to come, eat, and sleep at any time. With this attitude, of course, all fears and anxieties in front of the unknown country quickly disappeared. On the Georgian land, business was soon established, life had settled, a daughter was born, and everything went on as usual. Kairat with pride and pleasure shows us expensive accessories, antiques related to the homeland. Here is the picture I bought in Tbilisi, the green cape from Zerinda. I recognized it immediately. I bought it for myself. Kazakhstani artist Shagalikhin painted it, and I was very glad that number of kilometers away from the house I bought this picture. This thing is not less than 300 years old. This is a real bow. You put it on like this and use it this way, and it is made in layers. Here are 4 generations of my family. Grandfather's name is Kinjigara Sandikuli. In the middle, my father, Yersagin Kinjigara, native of Zerinda village of Kokshetau region. He's dead too. My mother, Sayran Kinjibai, my son, Sultan, and my brother, Talgat, are also here. This is the tree of our family, where our names are written, our family, and our grandchildren will continue this picture further. Here is my grandfather who did not return from the war, but in this picture the most interesting thing is a letter. It came in 1996. It had been looking for the right address for more than 50 years. And in 1996, I remember we were playing in the yard. It was September. When grandfather came, he called my father, clarified who he was. My father did not see his father because he was born 2 months after his father went to war. I remember the expression on my father's face at the moment when he said everything. First of all, the letter was oral, and there were 10 of such letters from 10 prisoners of war, and among themselves they handled these letters and learned them by heart. And this man kept this letter in his head. Thanks to him, very much. For so long he kept it in his head. And you know, this is probably the amazing power of duty before people. This person, after this letter, very quickly passed away. When he was ill, he called my father and said that this letter kept him going. And he carried out his mission to the end. We used to see it in the movies, but that time we experienced it on ourselves, an inexpressible, unimaginable thing. The history of the Kairat's family is interesting, with some very touching and fateful episodes. It used to happen so often in large families. His paternal grandmother lost her child, and to distract the grandmother from grief related to the loss of her baby, Kairat was given to her when he was 7 months old. And I didn't call my father father until I was 12. I called him Jizde. I am grateful that they have put so much warmth and goodness into us, that we're still remembering all of them and talking about these things, passing it on to our children. It's hard not to agree with our hero that honesty and sincerity are the best qualities, but we can only instill this into our children by our example, and also to explain and feel what patriotism is. Love for the homeland, without pathos and slogans, but humanely. When you live away from home, there is one problem that many people do not understand until they leave. Children do not know their relatives. This is a very difficult moment, which we have experienced on our own skin. For children, it is necessary that they grow together. Therefore, they should visit home more often. I would not go back to Georgia then. Still, I have a lot of time. I will live 100 years. Well, live for 100 years in Kazakhstan. That's how the feeling of the homeland shows up in a child, you understand? All Kazakhs need to be taken out for 3-4 months somewhere to live in another environment without moms and dads, on their own, so they will understand what it means to live in another environment. The feeling of patriotism in this child is much higher. He will begin to appreciate the things that he did not care for at home. Home, a simple, short, capacious word. For some, the home is only a roof and walls. For others, a bed and a hearth. For others, a place where they always accepted, loved, and cared for. Sometimes we call the home a temporary shelter, but it depends only on ourselves how much this temporary shelter will become. And perhaps for a person the most important are two houses, the father's house and the house in which he starts his own life. To find a house somewhere else is possible, only for a person who is persistent, friendly, patient, and wisely faces the challenges of fate, and there are few of them. Well, it seems to be a medal after all, an order awarded by the Bagrationi family, a royal dynasty in conjunction with the Patriarch of Georgia, Ilya II. They gave me this order. It has a whole ammunition. Was given to me as a token of gratitude for the work I have done in Georgia and the friendship of the people. It is under the number 1 in Georgia. I was one of the first to be given a knight name from Kazakhstan. Are you the first Kazakh who became a Georgian knight? Yes, you can say so. That's how 8 years of life in Georgia flew by for Kairat Kinjigarin and his family. In the third house, which proves with all its core the existence of the most necessary for a person, love for the homeland, respect and love for the country in which it was fortunate to spend some period of life, memory of the past and acceptance of the present. Everything in the house speaks eloquently about each of these concepts. Over the past 5 years, Kazakhstan has become a very important strategic partner for Georgia. Politicians, diplomats, public figures, businessmen, they already have a whole diaspora, which every year is replenished and strengthened by friendly ties. All of our heroes know that when they come to Georgia, they feel as if they have come to their closest friend or relative, not abroad. Here, human communication develops so well. And you don't have to think hard about it. That person becomes your friend, with whom you just feel good, with whom it's interesting to talk and be silent, joke or conduct business, consult or play. That is what our third hero notes, that if he made some friends in Georgia, this is usually for life. We celebrate Christian holidays in my home, Muslim holidays at Kairat's house, twice as many holidays here. Vitaly Vasepov, he was born in 1975 in Kostanay. He graduated from the school, then Polytechnic College, Technological College, and Economics Faculty of Baitursinov Kostanay State University. He has been living in Georgia for 4 years. We had an event for the CIS countries here. It was June of 2012. We were taken to the different presentations. We saw a big part of this country. And I said to myself that I want to live here. Georgians and Kazakhs, if you look closely, have many similar features. Both Georgians and us are very open, nosy, we love communication and reach fists. There are differences, but not such fundamental, which could become an obstacle for reapproachment or the cause of critical misunderstanding. And so it happened that Vitaly's thoughts materialized very quickly. A few months later, he was offered to move to Georgia. I came here to take care of a business for a week, and at the end of December, somewhere around January 8th, after all the holidays in 2013, I started to work here. A young and energetic businessman, despite a short period of stay in Georgia, responded readily and fairly to our questions about himself and about this amazing country and shared interesting observations. Here, each corner is like its own region. Kakheti there, Bracha, Svaneti, all different with their own culture, dance, music, their own cuisine. The wine is different, and everyone compliments his own wine. It is interesting, for example, that the Kakhetians never go to the sea. They think that this is nonsense. The sea, why is it needed? At that time, on the contrary, those who live on the sea, Ajaria, they do not like to go to Kakheti. What is there to do? It is very hot. They're very patriotic to their region, to their part of Georgia, and don't move very much. Here again the comparison. We and they, how are we and how are they people? Every person is an individual, and you won't find the same one among billions of people. For someone, in this uniqueness lies the beauty of human existence. As Antoine de Saint-Exupéry said, it doesn't matter where a person was born, it matters what he believes in. And it doesn't matter what country a person was born, it matters according to what principles he decided to live his life. How do you see yourself in 20 years? It will be a house with a garden, probably with a small pond. I'll buy myself a rocking chair. I'll sit in it for 5 years doing nothing, and then I'll start to sway. Well, in 20 years, I see myself at least surrounded by grandchildren. I see the children next to me, my wife next to me, and I just sit and enjoy my life. I would like to see myself surrounded by my children, surrounded by them and enjoy life. That's the most important thing. To have your family by your side. It is the most important thing. The future has several names. For a weak person, the name of the future is impossibility. For the strong, the goal. For the faint-hearted, existence. For our compatriots with whom we spent some unforgettable days in picturesque Georgia, the future is life in all its manifestations, in business, care, recreation, entertainment, and families and children. There are travelers who are hungry for new peaks, but after long wanderings, enriched by impressions and experience, no one knows, but maybe they will come back to what they left, to their homeland.
Расстави дождем